Alright guys, let's take a look at lesson 18.2 here, which will deal with translation and coordinates. So we're into our transformations unit here. At this point we've seen a brief intro of the three main ones, translations, reflections, and rotations, and now we're going to start getting into a little more of the details of them. And the first one we will look at is the translation. So let's take a look. Here it says the translation, it only changes a figure's position. So a verbal description of a translation includes words such as right, left, up, and down. Okay, so let's consider the triangle shown there. We are going to down in part A, record the coordinates of the vertices, and we're going to put that in the table. So let's give these names here. Let's say this is point A, point B, and point C, okay? And then the coordinates of those points, so we can get a list of like where they're located. So point A is over at -4 for the x and up 2 units, so -4, 2. Okay, and we can put this in the old table here, -4, 2. Point B up here is at -2 for x and up at 5 for a y value. So that's like the location of that point. And point C, x value of 3 and a y value of 2. Okay, so that would be the pre-image. That's the triangle. Okay, so we did that. Now let's go ahead and do part B. We want to translate the triangle. We want to go down 2 units and then right 5 units. So if we do that, and we do one point at a time, let's just start out with point A. We want to go down 2 units, so down 2 and then right 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So A would now move or translate over there. What I'm going to do, I'm going to call it A prime. That little apostrophe looking like symbol, in math that's pronounced prime. And it basically it's just saying it's like related to A. It's kind of like the where A has ended up after we did something to it. We moved it. So A prime would be there. Let's do the same thing with points B and C now. So we're going to go 2 units down and 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4. So B prime will now be over there. And then same thing with C prime. Down 2 units and over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. C prime would end up over there. So our new triangle would actually be this. And let's see what happened with the coordinates now. Okay, we're going to do the coordinates of the image. So we've moved it, okay? A now, A prime is over here. Its x value is 1 and its y value is 0. Okay, B up here has an x value of 3 and a y value of 3. And point C is over at 8, 0. Okay, so we did record the coordinates of the image. Okay, let's see what are we going to do now. So a symbolic representation of a transformation is an algebraic way to show the changes. So we could just use words, like a verbal representation was down 2 units, right 5. Okay, but if you take a look down here under part D, the way that we can show this same transformation symbolically is just like this. What it's saying to us is you take any original xy, okay, any original coordinate, and what we're doing is we are adding 5 to the x value, and we are subtracting 2 from the y value. So that's just a way of saying when you add 5 to the x value, it means move to the right 5 units, which is what we did. Okay, when you subtract 2 from a y coordinate, that's telling you just to move the coordinates down 2 units, which is what we just did. Okay, so if you take a look at an example, the one we actually just completed, if you take this x coordinate of -4 and you add 5, that's where we're getting the 1. Okay, the original y coordinate was 2. If we subtract 2, like the rule says, it goes down to 0. And you'll see that those rules apply for each of the 3 points that we did on our triangle. All right, so let's take a look at another figure here. Figure 2. So in this example, figure 2 is the image of figure 1 after a translation as shown in the coordinate plane. So figure 1 you'll see is the black image, A, B, C, D, and then figure 2, it has been translated. We see A prime, B prime, C prime, and D prime. So let's get the coordinates of each of these and see if we can kind of work on what the translation rule is. Okay, so from the pre-image is just the original figure A, B, C, D. The coordinates, so point A up here is at -6, 2. Okay, point B is at, what is that, negative 1, 2, 3, negative 3 for the x, 4 for the y. Okay. C is at negative 2 for x and 1 for y. And then D is at negative 1, 2, 3, negative 4, negative 1. All right, and then the same process, let's see what happened in the actual image now, the greenish blue figure. A prime is over at 2, 0. Okay, B prime was up at 5, 2. C prime, we're out at, what is that, 6, negative 1. And then D prime down here was over 4, down 3. So 4, negative 3. Okay, so let's refer to the graph in the table. So was the figure translated up or down? So when they say the figure, again, we're talking about the original image, which was this one. So to translate it, we see that each of the new points, okay, are lower than they were originally. Like look at where A is, and then A prime is down here. So the translation was down, and by how many units? Okay, it went down. This was at a y value of 2, and then it ended up at a y value of 0. So it looks like it went down 2 units. And if you were to compare the y values, okay, each one, when you go to the image, is 2 lower than the original pre-image. Okay, so that would be a way to tell from the table. Now, was the figure translated left or right? So again, think about point B was here. If it ends up way over here, it has been translated to the right. Now, by how much? Okay, it went from, we could take a look at the first point, or let's just use point B. Point B originally had an x value of negative 3. It ended up way over at positive 5. So that is a change of 8 units. So that would be the amount of translation. Oops, I want to write in the highlighter. That would be the amount of units that it has translated to the right. Okay, so for a verbal representation of the translation, verbal, you're just writing words. Okay, you're going to write down 2 units and right 8 units. Okay, that's all verbal is. If you're going to explain this to someone verbally, right, you would just say those words. Now, symbolically, the symbolic representation, this is kind of like a rule. It's telling you what can you do to any point to get to the new point. So it's saying, again, you start out with x, y. The new x is going to be 8 higher because you're going to the right 8 units. And the new y is going to be 2 lower because we shifted down 2 units. All right, let's take a look at one last example here. So we have a triangle PQR, and the coordinate plane here shows P prime, Q prime, R prime after triangle PQR undergoes a translation. So let's make sure we're clear on what's going on here. So PQR is the original triangle right here, okay, without the little primes. Now, there's some translation goes on, right? We are showing now this is the final ending image here. Okay, so the original again is PQR, or the pre-image is the fancy word, right? Pre-image, like before anything happened, while the new one is the actual image, okay, which is like the ending point. So can we use this figure to get a verbal description? So let's just focus on one point. Let's say what happens with point P, it goes from there, ends up P prime over there. So it looks like we've gone to the left 1, 2, 3, 4. And then also up 1, 2, 3. Okay, we should say something like it's a shift or translate. Okay, shifted left 4, and then up 3 units. Okay, and again, the symbolic representation of that, to shift to the left, anything left or right is dealing with x values. So to go to the left 4, you would take the original x and you would subtract 4 from it. So that arrow just means that it's moving, it's going to there. While the original y values are going 3 higher, up 3, y plus 3. Okay, let's walk through one last example. Let's say they give us a triangle, right? And it's shown on the coordinate plane. It's translated according to the following symbolic representation. Okay, let's do two things. Let's describe how the symbolic representation can be used to determine if the triangle is translated left, right, up, or down. So, for the left or right portion, again, think about the x-axis is the one that goes left or right. So since there's an x plus 1, that's telling me it's going to be going to the right 1 unit. Okay, the x value needs to get 1 bigger. That's shifting to the right. Okay, and as far as up or down, it's y plus 6. The y is, if you add 6, that's going to shift up 6 units. So let's go ahead and let's see if we can draw the image here. Okay, so let's just label these just so we have something to talk about. There's A, B, and C. Okay, and if we want to follow the rules, the x's need to go 1 to the right, and the y's need to go up 6. So point A would go right 1 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So A prime, okay, remember that's the symbol we use. A prime would be there. Okay, B prime would go over 1 and up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. And C prime, same thing, over 1 to the right and then up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so here's where my new image would be. Okay, once we did the translation. Okay, and again, keep in mind it's the same shape, same size. Okay, all we did is kind of slid it up and to the right. Okay, and that is translations and coordinates.